Welcome back to the Formant podcast. Today, I'm joined by Caleb, who is a forward deployed engineer here at Formant. Caleb is one of a small number of people at this company who's actually been inside our customers' facilities, semiconductor fabs, advanced manufacturing floors, working shoulder to shoulder with the people who run these operations every day. So we want this episode because there is a part of what Formant does that doesn't actually show up on the product page. And that is the services side, where people go on site, figure out the hard problems, and bring that learning back into how we build. Caleb lives right at the center of that. So Caleb, welcome. Before we get into what you do at Formant, can you give people the short version of your background? What did you do before this, and what's your relationship to the industry we're working in?
So I started my career first at a SCADA integration company. We were largely speccing out, building, and installing the actual SCADA control systems that you see in these advanced manufacturing facilities, as well as all the end devices, think valves, pumps, sensors, transmitters, stuff like that. After that, I went on to work for a tech startup in the, I'll say, consulting space, where we were building a web-based platform with some AI-powered tools that lived alongside it. I worked there for several years before I stumbled upon Formant.
For those of us a little new to the world of advanced manufacturing, what is a SCADA system?
Yeah, so you could think of a SCADA system, or some companies also have what they'll call a DCS, digital control system, as essentially the overarching computer system that does all of the control and monitoring of all of these physical devices they have out in the facility. Pumps, valves, compressors, conveyor belts, robotic arms, all the things like that.
Got it. That makes sense. So you are a forward deployed engineer. For people who haven't heard that term, what does that actually mean at Formant? What does sort of your day-to-day work, and what is a forward deployed engineer?
Yeah, forward deployed engineer was a very new role for me when I started also. I would say at Formant specifically, our role is to be the one that is on site interacting with the customers. There's only so much information we can take away from, virtual calls, working remotely together. Super valuable. However, something even more valuable is actually going and walking down these manufacturing floors and seeing the equipment that our AI agents will be working on. So I would say largely my day to day or week to week, it looks like meeting with our end users or clients, sort of learning the ins and outs of how their facility actually works, operates, where all the data collection points are happening, what are the problems that they are experiencing today, and taking all of that information and feedback, bring it to Formant to help our engineering team build a better product for them.
It's a different stance for a company to take, right? In sort of the world of SaaS, there was a little bit of a one size fits all. With forward deployed engineer, you have this services component where you go in and you really understand and adapt to the customer's reality. Like, how has that been different for you in your work life?
Yeah. Well, truthfully, for me, a large amount of my roles historically have been these client-facing roles. You first as a sales engineer, then as a technical account manager, and now as a forward deployed engineer. So living at the heart of the customer problem has
Mhm.
been my entire career so far.
Mhm.
I would say that my experience has largely been customer facing throughout my career. First as a sales engineer, then technical account manager, and now as an FDE. I think the thing that has changed, as you mentioned, is that services components. In the world of software today, having a one size fits all solution doesn't seem to be the future we're moving towards. And I will say historically, my work has been, here's the product we offer, and let's fit your square problem into a square peg. Now we have 12 different shape pegs that we're trying to fit into one hole. How do you make it work? And for us, I think that largely comes down to this idea of knowledge layer, where you might be building software using standardized components, but maybe the UI is unique per customer. Maybe the specific implementation is unique per customer. There are overlapping concepts that we can use from use case to use case, but I do agree that there are components that will change and be unique for each individual solution we implement.
And I think that's one of the things that we have changed our stance on as a company, right? As AI coding tools have become prevalent and software has become so changed from what it used to be, our ability to customize things to the individual customer is greater than it's ever been. So there is certainly something that the tools of the trade have changed dramatically. So a role like yours has to roll with the punches there.
Yeah, absolutely. A large part of the FDE role is going and figuring out what is the exact flavor of solution our customer needs. We're solving this general problem of automating tasks in industrial manufacturing. That could mean a million different things. So having a unique way to interact with the software for each client, I think it's pretty important at this point in age.
Yeah, let's try and stick with that for a minute. So one thing that has struck me as we have gone deeper with customers is just how different things look from one facility to the next. Even within the same company, we see across different sites, there are differences. Can you talk about what you've seen in terms of operational complexity, diversity of hardware, software, configuration, maybe the stuff that surprises you? Like what do you see in the wild?
Yeah. So something I think that anyone who's worked in the industrial space has probably seen, especially as you look at facilities that are maybe aging in certain areas of the US. The plants were built iteratively, and as they were built iteratively, you may have had different plant managers that preferred different hardware solutions or providers.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
Section A of the plant was built with Yokogawa. Section B of the plant was built with Emerson. Section C was built with Rockwell. And because of that, you're going to have a variety of different types of devices, different SCADA systems, and the way that the plant may have been built would be different as well. So because of that, we need to be able to go on site, do our research, dig into that to understand where are those differences in complexity and how do we capture that at a high level so that our software can work from pattern to pattern. Great example of that, a client that we've worked with has a part of their facility that they consider a standard design. When they went to copy and paste this pump station to another area of the facility, they weren't able to dig down into the bedrock deep enough. So they had to slightly readjust the plan and provide more pumps to now, instead of using a gravity fed solution, use a pump driven solution. Things like that. It ultimately the process is doing the exact same thing, but you now have one system using pumps and having various varying flow rates versus one that is static and gravity fed.
That's so interesting. That's so interesting. And I think something else that's unique about what we're doing now is that we're sort of saying this AI agent that really is how we engage the customer with sort of intelligence into their system is a guiding principle for us these days is that the agent adapts to your workflow, not the other way around. And since customers have got such diversity in the realities as you described, it's powerful that we no longer have to ask them to bend over backwards to fit our solution. We can actually go out there and adopt to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. So you go on site and you figure out the hard problems, you learn. Of course, that learning doesn't just stay with you. That would just make you a consultant. It goes somewhere. So let's talk about how what you learn in the field and feeds back into the Formant platform and essentially propagates its way to delivering value across our portfolio of customers.
Yeah, for sure. I would say knowledge extraction and collection is something that our team has been working on since I've been at Formant. We've largely, I would say from the FDE standpoint, the way we largely extract knowledge comes from both these on-site visits where we are jotting down notes, we are recording meetings we are interviewing operators at these facilities to understand deeply what does their day-to-day look like. And we take that along with a lot of what we usually refer to as raw data, documentation coming from the clients on P&ID drawings of their system, maybe historical alarm codes, data dating back multiple years. We are taking that and enriching it into a more scalable AI friendly document set or data set.
Right. We make sense of their complex data in a way that we are not just understanding any customer's particular data. We're building systems to ingest data and create meaning effectively using our AI intelligence platform.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Uh, Data comes in very disparate ways nowadays. You're going to have documents that are truly PDFs. You're going to have Excel spreadsheets. You might have operators that are sitting there with just knowledge trapped in their heads that they've known because they've been working at this facility for the past 30 years, but haven't actually collected it anywhere. It's our job to find all of those different silos of individual data and compile that into a way that our AI agent can meaningfully extract insight from it.
So we're talking about how what you go out in the field and learn feeds back to the products and allows us to then sort of go back out to the field and solve their problems better. So Formant really has two legs in our product, if you will. There's the software layer and the services layer where you work.
Yeah.
We talk internally about Formant having two legs. There's a software layer and a services layer. So how do those two work together? Just talk us through how that works.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the line between where one stops and one starts is a little fuzzy.
Mhm.
The FDEs are deeply ingrained in product, and product at times will get deeply ingrained in this services side. There's a lot of knowledge that we both have that is meaningful and valuable to the other team. So making sure that we are collaborating closely between services and product is something that we've been really striving for here at Formant. I would say, to answer the question though, in my eyes, the most value from the FDE team really comes out of those on-site visits and taking the burden off of product of translating. Clients aren't talking in terms of agentic workflows. They're not talking in terms of Python and JavaScript and, the code that lives in the code base. They are talking in their operational language that they know and have been using day in and day out. The
Mhm.
FDE team really needs to be the one who understands that language with them and then can take that and translate it to requests for product. So I'd say, to answer the question, that is sort of where the line begins to be drawn. But I still get involved with product on a daily basis and vice versa. Our engineers get involved with us on client calls all the time as well.
And that's an interesting distinction between you as a forward deployed engineer and say like an account executive, right? You are more than a sort of running a game of telephone. You are out there with the customer, you write code, you build product in situ, but you also navigate back to this software layer. That's key to understanding that you are forward deployed engineer. And that's important to understand.
Yeah, definitely. You know, you touched on it earlier. This new age we live in with Claude and ChatGPT and all these agentic coding tools allow us to build software quickly. So to a degree, the FDE team, part of our role is also providing proof of concept to our customers. Let's go on site, hear their operational issue that they're experiencing, understand immediately how do we diagnose that, and let's go build a quick prototype for them to prove out concept, and then we take that back to our product team and sort of enrich our platform with the features that they need for it.
I imagine a lot of people in advanced manufacturing and others running sort of advanced physical operations are probably seeing what goes on in AI at the moment. And maybe they're suspecting there's value for them to be had. And then there's that problem of that first step. So, talk about how we engage, how you, as a forward deployed engineer, goes up with the customer and sits with them and sort of brings them into the paradigm of AI.
Yeah, so I think that's something that Formance is able to leverage very well for our clients, is that we are the AI experts with that services layer, as you mentioned. So we kind of take that burden off of our clients. Of course, we want them to be educated on how agentic models function, what bits of data and information are important to making these tools run successfully. But largely, my job is to understand not what sort of agentic tool does the client need. It is, what problem are you facing? Do you have too many
Right.
alarms coming into your facility and you want to be able to discern which are noise and which are real? Are you trying to solve this problem that has existed in the field for a long time of predictive maintenance cycles, and your plant experiences too much downtime and you want to be able to discern when a valve is going to stop working and its internal diaphragm needs to be changed out before
Right.
it shuts down part of the plant? That is the job of the FDE, is to figure out those issues and turn that into the product, the agentic workflow side.
I think that's so interesting. And that's something that feels different, right? In the world of SaaS, which I have worked in as well extensively, you often had this problem that, to a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So if we had built this product, this monolithic product, we were trying to overfit sometimes to the customer's reality where you sort of knew maybe something wasn't a perfect fit, but it was very expensive to customize. These days, with the paradigm of agentic coding tools, we are now finally able to truly meet the customer where they are. So I really like this idea that you are less interested in taking a stance where you come out with a pre-baked product that you're trying to fit to the customer. You are going out there to understand their problems before anything else, because we can absolutely write code to customize to their solutions these days in a way that just wasn't possible frankly, in a fairly recent past, like 6 months ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's super exciting. So, Caleb, you're relatively new here. You're building alongside us. what gets you excited about where this is headed, where what we're building at Formant? As someone who's also been in this industry for many years, like what gets you excited about what's now possible?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I made this comment earlier about predictive maintenance. Since my days working for the SCADA integration company, this has been a term that advanced manufacturing facilities, power plants, oil and gas refineries, etc., have been talking about and throwing out that term for the past decade. When in the circa 2016 era, when machine learning was like all the rage, and companies started talking about big data and digital transformation, this
Mm-hmm.
was a top of the line priority then. Companies weren't quite able to figure it out. As it turns out, it is a pretty hard problem to solve. And while maybe that era uncovered all of the relevant data needed to solve this issue, we still had no way to meaningfully pull insight out of that data and to reason about it. I think what we've built at Formant has been super exciting to me because for the first time in over a decade, I have seen a glimpse of I think we can actually solve this problem now. I think the world of solving these problems like predictive maintenance, alarm flooding, you know, automating data trending tasks for your technicians to cut down time on solving the problems their planners facing. For the first time, these are actually solvable in this new world of AI. This is the tool that can do it.
Caleb, for the rest of us, can you define predictive maintenance?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you work at one of these manufacturing facilities or process facilities, we'll take, let's say, an oil and gas plant as an example. Every piece of moving equipment, pumps, valves, compressors, etc., they have wear and tear through going through their daily operations. You're going to have to shut down parts of the plant to fix these pieces of equipment at some point. Companies are totally on board with and have been operating under the precedence of let's have scheduled maintenance cycles where I know 6 months out from now, I plan to shut this part of the plant down, fix all of the soft good pieces that I can touch inside these valves and pumps, etc. And then we can go back up and run normal. That's great because they can plan out maybe you need to build up more of your product ahead of the shutdown to meet client demands. Maybe you have more workers coming in to work that maintenance cycle less. It's just a very planned, scheduled cost that they can follow through with. The thing that companies do not want to see is an unscheduled shutdown of their facility where the internals of a critical piece of machinery stopped working out of the blue. It shuts down the process. They are now behind schedule on, their production cycle. This idea of predictive maintenance is that one where if you're collecting enough data and information off of these pumps and valves, you could start to watch things like if it's a pneumatic actuated valve, you can look at things like how long does it take the valve to open and close? How much air pressure did it take for each cycle of the valve? Over time, you're going to see those data trends start to increase. That usually gives you a bit of a historic data reference of how long do I have based off of all of my historical data, how long do I have until this pump is going to, or this valve is going to fail? If I can do that across my entire facility and map out now section by section, knowing the estimated lifetime of each of these pieces of equipment to a more granular level of accuracy, I can really hone in on that, minimizing plant shutdown time and always have it be a scheduled uptime.
This is so interesting. This is the pattern that we see time and again, and listeners of this podcast will have heard us talk about before. We say data rich, action poor, and I think you've had a front row seat to this, right? You have seen over the past 10 years that a lot of digital information has become available around our advanced manufacturing and other large physical operations. But what to do with that data? Who's going to sit and look at all those dashboards? How are we going to take all this data and create intelligence or actually actionable insights out of it? That has just been a bedeviling problem. And one actually over the course of Formant's specific history around robots as well has been the same one. Like these machines throw off a ton of data. They exist inside environments that throw off a ton of data. What to do with this data? And now finally we're able to sort of say, well, if you put an AI agent in front of this data and we let it deal with things within its mandates that it can clearly understand, it can just file away a bunch of these alarms. And then the harder ones where you need operator judgment, we can escalate with context so that operators can get to work on what really matters much quicker with much richer context. And I think that's going to be a new day. It's going to be a new day for advanced manufacturing. So that is indeed exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it. And good luck out there.
Yeah, thanks, Henrik. This was great, and happy to help.